was trying on some new underbritches.
Lederhosen?
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Man, these Chinese sizes, they don't work for the Caucasian, not for the walrus. Yeah, so I'm trying on these underbritches, and they're supposed to be like stretchy and whatnot. Doggy's there watching me, and I'm pulling on them and pulling on them and pulling on them, and like there's no way. And I'm afraid it's like when you're playing with a rubber band and you're stretching it.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna into your unmentionables.
It's either that or it's gonna put a dog's eye out. One of the two. So they very carefully relax them and put them in a place where we'll never speak of them again. All right, so let's get this thing started.
Right, exactly.
Welcome again to another episode of Drake and the Maestro. Almost relevant.
Almost something, for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully has everyone recovered from their sports balling Sunday?
This place looked like the deck of the Titanic. I thought I was on the forecastle of a Tramp steamer.
Well, you know, I tuned in to watch the sports ball, and I realized I just ended up watching a beatdown.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Well, I mean, when your quarterback gets sacked 5 times in the first half of the game and you score no points, the defensive line spent more time. The defensive line for the green team spent more time on the field than any other part of any other team.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's usually a problem when that.
It was definitely a problem.
Although I don't follow the sports ball, but hasn't it been kind of a thing that a lot of the games have been blowouts?
Yeah, I mean that's been pretty. A lot of the games where the teams are mismatched, where you're getting teams that are like 15-1 going up against teams that are 3-14.
Yeah,
you know, like when the Eagles played the Bears and just sent them packing.
Well, you know, Bears haven't been the same since the 80s. Yeah, that's just the way.
No, boy, do they want to remind us of it.
Well, you know, I'm just
remember when we were good?
No, I don't. Go away. Yeah. Anyhow, so you were, and you've got your. Do you have? Oh, because we spoke yesterday during sports ball, and you were getting pizza.
I did.
So
I got my pizza.
You were.
That was a whole adventure. Yeah, we had to. I called in the pizza at 1:00. Figured I'd try to beat the crowd for the pizza because of the sports ball game, you know. And the guy from the pizza place called me immediately. They're only a half mile up the road. Like I could have walked if I wasn't such a walrus. And he calls me immediately. He goes, "Hey, we don't have a delivery driver. Could you come pick it up?" I'm like, "No, my truck isn't going to easily fit in your lot. So I prefer if you delivered it, you know." He goes, "Okay, well, our delivery driver won't be here till 4. So that's fine. You know, as long as the pizzas get delivered, what do I care?" You know, so I killed 3 hours watching.
I can see where this is headed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure a lot of listeners can see where this is headed. I killed 3 hours watching various videos on streaming services that shall remain unnamed. And then an extra half hour because I was like, I wanted to give them extra time.
Bringing it up, is there?
No. Well, but that's how you're going to ask.
No point
you're going to ask. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So I killed 3.5 hours. I figured I'd give him a little extra time because they said he'd call me. And he hadn't called me. So finally I called them after, because I was like, how much time do you have after the timetable they give you before you start getting frustrated?
Aren't you calling, you're talking to the places, 20 minutes or it's free, right?
Right.
Isn't that the place?
No, Domino's doesn't do that. They don't do that anymore.
Nobody does that anymore because it's too big a risk.
It's too big a risk, yeah. There's too many factors in that don't go well if something happens like this. So, so it wasn't 20 minutes or it's free. And he figured, I'd give it, and he gave me a timetable, so I was willing to wait for that timetable to be over and plus a little bit just in case whatever shenanigans happened.
Like somebody calling in 30 pizzas for their sports ball party.
Right. Yeah. Whereas what I found out where they were 50 pizzas behind plus an order for 30 pizzas by themselves. And so they were a little buried. And the one delivery driver that was there couldn't leave because they needed him to be there to help fulfill orders.
Yeah, so you get yourself. That's one of those deals where you get yourself worked up into a lather. Like, 3 hours for the. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go there and
exactly, which is exactly what happened. I got a little worked up I got a little lathered up, and I unhooked my truck and I drove over there and I took up 2 parking spots and stuck out halfway into the through lane of the parking lot and walked in all hot, and that's how I found out that they were super behind and that they felt bad, but there was really nothing they could do. They were doing their best.
Right, because in your mind, you're picturing a full crew sitting there having a smoke break for the rest of the day, watching.
Or the delivery drivers, delivery driver's sitting with his thumb up his butt in the back because he doesn't really want to leave, or he called in and doesn't want to come in, and nobody else really wants to get in their car and drive it over.
So you get out of the truck, you have a good door slam, you're stomping over across the parking lot, and you walk in the door, and it's the manager and one pimply faced kid, and they're like maniacs, and they're going, sorry, sir.
And an older guy just standing there taking because like the manager is like spreading the dough, putting it on the tray, putting the sauce on it, handing it to the kid. The kid is putting the toppings on and putting it in the oven. And then the old guy's taking them out of the oven and putting them in the box and stacking them all the orders together. And and the entire time I'm there, they never stopped doing that other than the kid came over for a second to look up my order to see what it was.
And ask you, what kind of cheese filling do you want?
Right, exactly. So, obviously my tone changed pretty quickly. I was like, all right, they're just screwed.
You walk in and see that, and like all of a sudden you're like, oh, all right, you want me to answer the phone or something? Help you out here?
Right. Domino's, no, click.
I may help you.
I won't help you. You can't get help. It's going to be 3 hours. Goodbye. Yeah, because a guy walked. I mean, I pulled up and parked and went in there, and I was standing there waiting for my food, and another guy showed up right after me and walked in and was like, hey, I'd like to order. And they're like, oh, it's going to be at least 3 hours before we can even take your order and get it to you. He's like, you know what? I'll just get something else.
Right.
You know what?
So much for their ad. I'm just going to use my emergency pizza. I'm fine. That's where the customer walks in and they back out slowly.
Right. I'm sure normally they're fine with the crew they have. They're in a kind of a rural location. They probably don't get super busy, but it's sports ball weekend. It should be everyone on deck.
Well, it's because the entire crew called in sick. They called in sports ball.
Well, they called it. Yeah, they called in well. Well, I'm not coming in. I got my pizzas. I guess the manager felt I don't know if he felt sympathy for me because I had to wait for my order, or if he just was grateful that I didn't come in yelling and screaming and throwing a fit. I even told him, like, hey,
stomping and snorting
right, and tearing up the walls and whatnot. I even told him, like, just keep it, I already tipped the driver, just split that amongst each other. It's whatever, I already paid for it, so it's not that big a deal. And he ended up comping my meal for me, which he didn't have to do.
Right.
And so, it was just one of those things. It's just like, you didn't need to do that. I was willing to pay for the food. I know I'm a fat ass. I'll pay for my own food. Thank you very much.
Now, and imagine the carnage and mayhem that has. Okay, so I've been in this, right, where the kitchen gets buried, and there's really. I worked for the king, and not Elvis. Right. Oh, wait.
Let me have a heap of helping of them mashed potatoes.
And the mayhem that's in the kitchen afterwards, after you get.
Oh yeah, it looks like a war zone. There's lettuce everywhere.
After the last customer leaves, and
there's chicken fry. In my case, there's chicken fries on the floor.
Right.
Frozen Whopper patties are somehow stuck to the ceiling. You don't even know how they got up there.
And why is there a manatee sitting here? What in the world is going on?
Right.
What happened?
All kinds of crap on the floor. It's just it looks like a burger exploded in the kitchen.
So then you've got all the stuff, the whole shift that you just went through, and then you got a whole other shift cleaning up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love my work.
While also still trying to make food for people that are still coming in. Yeah, the worst thing that could happen is you're working the kitchen and you hear, "We've got a bus." Oh no! Oh, make that 2. Oh, looks like 3. It's just like apparently like the U of I or whatever is traveling through, and they're gonna stop because for that Burger King had parking behind it. It was truck parking or bus parking. So like tour buses would pull in there and unload their 70 or 80 college kids into a building that probably had a maximum occupancy of 30.
Yeah, so that's like when I was traveling, it was always like you see a tour bus sitting there, you're like, nope.
Right, exactly. You see the tour bus sitting there, you just go, well, we're going to go somewhere else.
Right. You got any more of those sandwiches left?
You got any food left in there? No. Okay.
Well, we got this one that the dog went on. Pass it up. Pass it on over. That's fine.
Now, it's only been lightly stepped on.
Yeah, and, moisturized.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, I've returned. And I told the guys, the only reason I didn't want to pick it up is because my truck doesn't really fit in your lot, and because it's cold, and the jaws on my fifth wheel don't always like to close when they're cold. All fifth wheels are like that.
Yeah.
They don't like to close when it's cold out. They can get hung up, like one of the teeth, because there's several styles. There's like the hook style, and then there's like the clamp style where the jaws close around it.
You're willing to risk it sometimes, in the name of pizza.
Well, in that case, like I either need to go get my food or I'm not getting my food.
Yeah.
It was kind of the decision I had to come down to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad it all worked out, and hopefully everybody else has recovered from their sports balling.
Various. Hopefully your team won, if it didn't, too bad.
I've got a game here of our own.
Oh, we got our own sports ball game.
Well, it's not sports ball exactly, but right. And so we begin. Here's the game. The game is called "What Was I Thinking?"
Ah, okay.
What was I thinking? So as I go through, I don't know. As I go through day by day, my daily activities or inactivities, such as they may be, things strike me like, hey, we should talk about this because it's kind of funny, whatever.
And so the infamous note.
I make, that's on the back of an envelope. It's not the Gettysburg Address, but it'll do sometimes. But sometimes I'm too clever.
I feel like the back of an envelope's too good for you. Maybe you should be like a napkin or I don't know.
Well, I'm writing with a Sharpie, so that anyhow.
Okay, well, that kind of balances it out then.
Yeah, it balances it out. But sometimes, I try to make like notes and I try to make them pithy, and
I don't know why you're making your notes pithy. You're the one reading them.
Right. Well, apparently I'm too clever for my own good.
Well, that's been well documented.
So I go back to look at the note. I'm like, okay, what in the world was I thinking about?
What am I trying to say here?
Yeah, exactly. So you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Here's the line that I have been looking at, and I can't figure it out. Flaming Forestry.
Well, it depends. What you need to do is you need to start dating your notes so that you know when you're talking. Because Flaming Forestry could be anything. That could be like gay trees. People got married in gay people got married in some trees. It was the California wildfires.
It's not the wildfires.
Gay trees.
No, it's not the wildfires.
I'm thinking gay trees in some way. Maybe you heard about the trees. The trees, like the male trees, there's too many male trees in a certain area, so then one of them has to switch to be female, which does happen in nature.
I don't know.
Where they change genders.
All I know is I put the terms into my private search engine, and it came up with a whole bunch of U.S. forestry pages. So
I'm telling you, it's about fires. It's either gay trees or fire trees.
It's not. It led me to a whole bunch of pages that are talking about how the U.S. Forestry Service has declared itself as the nation's storyteller and is determined to tell stories about, flaming forestry, apparently.
Maybe it was maybe they were making some kind of gay
they are. Because it's got the flags and whatever, and it's talking about how our U.S. Park Service is really gay or something like that. So, but whatever kind of funny or entertaining thing there, it escapes me. So, listeners, if you can think of what in the world was I thinking when I wrote the note "Flaming Forestry"?
There's that country song about what was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure there's a few of them. Just leave it in the comments. I don't
Leave
really.
it in the comments.
I'm thinking Maestro's right. It's probably gay trees of some kind, or
It's some kind
parks
of
or
gay
something.
trees with the Forestry
Yeah.
Service or something.
When U.S. Forest,
They
when
found a
U.S.
gay
parks are
ant.
festive or something. I don't know.
That could be happy trees. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
If you're just being circuitous in your language.
Right. So yeah, leave that if you're on Spotify. Leave that. You leave your best guess in the comments, and I don't know. We'll talk about the best guess, or
And we
you
might
can
care
win-
about it.
you can win a hearty handshake and a pat on the back or something. Or you can contact us at Drake and Maestro on X or Drake and Maestro at Outlook.com.
We gotta have the Outlook. We gotta be professional. We gotta have the Outlook address.
Yes. Talking about simple fixes, being the best. Right.
Exactly.
So my sister was over because her
You were
car
talking
play-
about simple fixes? Oh, because the notes, but the simple fixes. Right.
Yeah. So she
Gotcha.
brought her van
I was trying to
over.
figure out the segue there.
Yeah. Put a new battery in it, in the van.
Yep.
And I was opted for one of those batteries with the brightly colored tops, like I
Ooh.
always do. But she
Are
was
they
saying
really
her
that brightly colored?
well, red, yellow, blue, pretty bright
Yeah,
color.
but they don't have like neon pink.
Anyway, she was pointing out that the CarPlay wouldn't work anymore.
Okay. And mine does
The
that
iPhone?
sometimes.
And I don't know anything. I really
Gets
don't know
mad.
anything about. Yeah, I don't know anything about Apple CarPlay. But boy, did I learn quick.
I know the Apple
So-
likes to hold its users hostage in the weirdest ways possible.
Yeah, so there you go. So I was embarking on this whole complicated, what's going on, tech guy kind of thing, right? And then
Yeah.
I wait, back up. Simple things first, because I could get
You
I
gotta
could get the
kiss it.
card. I could get the car to connect on my iPhone that I have, my little spare one, and I got to connect on my Android. Of course, I had, but with loading a Toyota app. You need,
Of course, you need an
get
app.
get all the way through. It says, well, for communications, you got to have your Toyota app, and then with my iPhone, is if you're trying to use CarPlay, you need to enable Siri. Well, I'm not enabling Siri, but it tells me that at least the communication was there with that, right? So
Yeah.
then I realized that, and it makes sense because I guess my Android in my van does it too. They use Bluetooth for phone and media player, but everything else, the screen sharing, the apps that all come up on your screen and all that goes through the USB cable. Unless
I think it depends on which. I think it depends on which media you're using. Because, like, if you're like in my case, if I'm using iTunes on my Android, I think it goes through the cable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. If it's an app, yeah.
Right.
If it's not directly accessing the media content, if you're doing it through an app, it goes through the cable. Unless you have the brand new like 2024 CarPlay Android Play system, then it does it because it's got the new
Yeah,
Bluetooth.
it's all Bluetooth.
Then
It's all Bluetooth.
it
It's
can
all
do
wireless.
It can do either Bluetooth or cable.
Right. It's because
And
they have the wireless CarPlay now.
yeah. So I didn't find that out until later. So, and I guess I did download the software to update her van, but whatever. Haven't. So I'm getting into, like I say, we're getting down in the weeds, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. I am violating like one of my first rules that I taught myself and all the people that work with me. Hey, wait.
Yeah.
Simple stuff first, right? It's like the customer calls up, my printer isn't printing, and I don't understand what's going on, and you need to come out immediately and help them, which I'm more than happy to come out immediately and help.
Yeah, before I get all the way out there, is
Right.
it on?
Before I put on
Okay.
pants and have them shoot halfway across the room while I chase them down trying to put them on again, can you?
Right.
Yeah. Is it plugged in? Is it turned on?
Okay. Is it
Things
turned
like
on?
that. Because
Okay, well, no, you're gonna have to turn it on.
I've had my techs banging their head against the wall. I don't understand what's going on. Well, is the UPS power strip or whatever? Is it turned on? Oh, yes. Stop it.
That was back
So-
when people would turn stuff off because the power consumption was so high.
Yeah, or the cat was playing back there and hit, the foot hit the
Or the
switch,
kids,
or the
or
dog
they had
was
it near
laying
their
on it
feet.
because the dog was laying on it because it was warm. Who knows?
Well, it would be more likely the cat was laying on it because it was warm, and the dog was playing with it because it was bored.
Yeah. So I blew out the port on her phone.
Uh huh.
and plugged it back in, and everything was working.
Yeah, I had some issues with my car in the Android Auto, and I had to uninstall the.
Well, that's where I was headed. I was headed,
because I did all the other stuff first. I changed the. I cleaned. I tried to clean the port out with a little toothpick, getting the lint that was in there out of there, and then I tried cleaning out the cable as well, just in case. And then I replaced the cable, and that didn't work. And I think it was a mix of things. I think the cable got weirded out, and also the app with one of the updates went funny.
If your cable isn't connecting right, then you can you're doing all kinds of things to data, and who knows what that does to the app. I don't know. But I was going that route. But I was like, wait a minute, I didn't cover the basics. Go back and cover the basics.
I will tell listeners this. If you're using a cable for Android Auto, make it a short one. It needs to be 3 feet.
Yes. Or less.
These 6-foot or 12-foot cables are only work for so long, and then they start either corrupting data or the cable goes bad itself. It's not worth it. It doesn't add anything. Plus, you shouldn't need most USB plugs are right there by where you're going to put your phone, and then you put your phone there.
That we're talking about, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you put your phone there, and then you don't touch it. You don't need a long cable for your phone because it shouldn't be in your hand. Put it down, you animals.
Heathens.
Yes.
Yeah. Which reminds me of I'm watching my favorite cop programs, right?
Okay. Your stories.
Yeah. And there's the whole put down the phone thing, right? So cop makes a pit at 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? Precision immobilization technique, and the car does an end roar and flips around back and forth up and slams in the guardrail and has so much momentum because they did it like 140. It slams backwards into the guardrail.
Pit. Was it Arkansas? Because it was either Arkansas or Georgia.
Of course, it was Arkansas. They even talked to the.
They live for the pit.
They even talked to the guy in charge, the colonel or whoever's in charge of the Arkansas State Police. No, he's got a funny title. It's like Colonel or Commandant or something.
It's probably Commandant.
Whatever it is. They were talking to him. And they're like, well, isn't that, it's dangerous maneuver. The driver could get injured, or could possibly injure other people. And he's like, well, first of all, we have no mandate as far as, the maximum speed that we can use the pit maneuver. They're like, well, some states or some counties and municipalities only allow a pit under 45 or under. And it's funny watching his eyebrows. His eye goes up like, how are you going to 45? You're going to get the guy to slow down to 45 so you can pit him. Is that the deal? He's like, these people are traveling 100 plus. They're not going to, so we try to find an open area. And basically he didn't say it, but he was saying is if they die, they die. They chose to put themselves at risk. They should just stop.
He gave the Ivan Drago response that if he dies, he dies.
He dies.
I must break him.
Or like my great uncle who married late in life and married a much, much, much younger, vivacious woman. And in a private moment, we're like, are you sure about this? She's
yes, but what a way to go!
No, she's like, what young woman in her prime? I mean, man, at your age, that could be fatal. And he said, well, she dies.
Yeah, which is apparently also how most of the people drive on the highway these days, except for it's about themselves. If I die, I die.
You went Aussie there for a moment there, mate.
You're gonna die. Yes, with my thongs, which is free for listeners that don't know. That's what Aussies call flip flops.
So the car hits the rear of the car hits the guardrail, so he's perpendicular to the roadway. Does a backflip up and over the guardrail. It's like
you've told this story because this is the guy that they finally get him out of the car, and he goes, "Can I get my phone?"
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
It sounds similar, but it's different. Okay, the car sticks the landing backwards, and they got the camera up on the guy. You can see him in the car. And he's holding his phone like he caught it in like a trophy, right? He's thrown around the interior of the car, but he comes up sticking the landing with the phone. Maybe he never let
go of it.
So
he's live tweeting his police pursuit.
Streaming.
No, not live streaming. Live tweeting is where they tweet as they're doing stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of what it predates live streaming. It was just people would like tweet during like movies or shows and stuff and be like live tweeting. They're continually posting updates.
He has stuck the landing.
Right. Well, just rolled. Hang on a sec. As the car's flying through the air.
I want to get that live feed because this guy have the background rolling and twisting and all that, and from the camera's perspective. And there's crashing and banging.
Upside down now.
Right. So what? I wonder what the Russian judge. One of the Russian judges would give that because that was pretty spectacular.
Well, it's a 7 for execution. It's a 7.5 for sticking the landing while holding the phone. Yeah. It's not a 10 because he didn't go over the wall and land the correct direction, facing the correct direction on the other side of the road. Like that's a 10. This is like a 7, maybe a 6. Depending on how he's feeling that day.
That's like the guy that gets out of the car and goes to he just sits down on the guardrail and then just launches himself backwards over the guardrail, right? On a bridge though, so he's like 3 stories up. It's dark, you can't tell. So that guy did not stick the landing.
No, that was a mess.
No. That's a road pizza.
Usually is.
Yeah.
So they had to scrape him up with a spatula.
All right. So I also want to know how there's a new trend, and it's somewhat disturbing. It from a former president's son all the way down to the public toilets here at the park in our little hamlet. There's a trend.
Is it cocaine?
Well, yes, but that's not what I've got here in the notes specifically. And it was what caught my interest was I have this memo here from Stellantis that makes Dodge and Chrysler products.
I gotta settle. Is it? I thought it was Stellantis.
Well, here it's STELLANTIS.
Yeah. Stell. It's Stell. STELL.
Right. And TIS.
There's no other T.
Yeah. ANTIS. Ant is.
Stellantis.
Still ant is.
It's French.
So the other T is probably silent.
What other T? That would be Stellantis.
Right, but then it's French, so they put accents in weird places. Because when I've heard it pronounced, I've always heard it pronounced Stellianus.
Okay.
It's in Europe. It's pronounced like I've heard people from Europe saying Stellianus, and then
but do you say Americans? Do you say aluminium?
Stellantis. Well, no,
I do.
It's not what it's called.
I also say Charlotte. So there. All right. So basically, they're having trouble. This is from the Kokomo engine plant to all employees. They're having trouble.
Way down in Kokomo?
It's a memo. Yeah, down in Kokomo.
That's the place I want to go.
Well, it says it's unfortunate for all of us have to deal with employees that continue to create situations that are both unsanitary and clearly disturbing.
Everything comes down to poo.
Wiping feces on the bathroom walls, the disability handlebars, door latches, and sink handles. And piles.
The phrase disability handlebars. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. I like to ride the disability handlebars like I did as a kid. Right. No, that's not the same. And the piles being left on the floor.
It's not new. As someone who was a janitor for a large retail chain for about 8 months, very large retail chain. It used to, you might have heard of rollbacks and stuff like that. We'll say that's about enough of that. It's not new. That's not a new thing. That's not. It's not.
But why?
It's not new. The president. It's never been new. That was almost 20 years ago. You
got the former president's son making fecal paintings. You've got people
expressing his
happened. Oh, for goodness sake! Having fun amusing yourself.
I am. Well, I had to do something while you were incapacitated there.
Yeah. The fishing line was ringing, and I didn't have it forwarded over to the robots.
See, this is what happens when you don't plan ahead.
When you plan to fail, you fail your plan. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, technically.
So it just came up. I saw the memo from Stellantis, who, by the way, their solution is to have their maintenance service not clean it up, but just lock the bathroom and deprive the employees of the use of the bathroom.
Declare a biohazard.
That's exactly what they're doing. They declared a biohazard, and then until the biohazard teams comes and cleans it, then it's just not. You're not going to get to
Kills
use
it
it.
with
That's
fire.
all. Yeah, you'll have to walk all the way to the locker room to use the toilet.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think they could do that, and then that problem will solve itself because eventually they're going to figure out who the other employees will eventually figure out who it is
Right.
to take care of that
Right.
problem.
I think that's what's I think that's the goal here, since they
It
can't.
is the goal.
Yeah, they're just going to increase the pain
It's a real.
until it resolves itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real crappy situation.
It is.
See, that makes me think of something that happened to me at the Petro in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I know you're gonna. It's pronounced bar. That's the way they say it over there. It's Wilkes-Barre. I know it's
It'll always
B-A-R-E.
be Wilkes-Barre to me. That's all there's to it.
It's Wilkes-Barre. That's how they say it. That's how I'm gonna say it. There's a town there that's called Throop. All right, I don't care what you tell me. I'm gonna pronounce it how I want.
And that's what makes
It's
America
spelled
great.
Throop. How would you pronounce that?
Troop?
Throop. Right. I'm sure it's Throp is how they probably say it.
I don't know. Are you really going over there?
That's that's Maine. That's a whole different. That's a whole different. But I'm in the Fuel Island bathroom of the Petro and Wilkes-Barre, which because I couldn't make it to the store. I was a little too far away from the store, but I was right across from the Fuel Island building, which is how old truck stops were set up. They had a fuel island with its own building that had its own food, and it was its own little convenience store for the truck drivers. And then the main store was on a different part of the lot.
How God intended it.
Right. So that, the truck drivers weren't fighting with the four-wheelers to get stuff done. But anyway, you could go in, you could grab a quick bite to eat. Well, the guy, get something to go. Well, the guy behind you is fueling, get your drink and get back in your truck and go.
What do you have? The soup or the special?
Right. So
What did he have? The special. Soup, please.
I'm making space for dinner and just kind of, finishing up. And I hear someone else come in the bathroom and they sit down, they close the door. And after a couple of seconds, I hear the crunch of someone biting into an apple. And it's a very distinct, when you bite into an apple or anyone else around you bites into an apple, it's a very distinct sound. You're not going to confuse that for something else.
Right.
And I did have to think, is he watching a video?
That's no better. He was sitting there on the toilet watching a video of someone else eating an apple. That's no better.
Right, but it's still not. It's less weird than physically eating an apple in the crapper.
It's different weird. It's still weird,
but it's less weird. It's still because it could be like part of a movie. So. Well, because it could be like watching a TV show where someone's eating an apple or something. It's.
I don't know. I've heard people in there talking on the phone on speaker. Why?
I have too. I always try to make sure that if there's a pause in the conversation, I flush the toilet. I wait for it. I wait for them to have.
This is such a crappy episode. Oh my goodness!
I wait for them to pause the conversation where there's like a natural pause, and then I'll flush the toilet, even if I don't have to. I'll just add an extra because they're gonna hear it.
Speakerphone.
Correct, because they're on speakerphone. And then there's going to be are you talking to me in the bathroom? Like there's going to be a whole conversation about that later. So that's why I do that. But anyway, so I hear the apple. I think, okay, once it's probably a TV show. No, it's this guy's eating an apple in the crapper of a truck stop.
Right. So that's definitely premeditated, right? Because you have to come. Okay, I'm going to go take a number two.
Buy it.
You gotta get the apple.
Go take it with you to the bathroom, and then sit down, and then make the conscious choice while you're sitting on the toilet to go. Yeah, you know what sounds good right now? That apple I bought.
Yes.
What made it even worse? It was the guy that was doing the grill for the food counter in the building. And let me just say, he really looked like someone that would eat a bathroom. He really did look like someone that would eat an apple in the bathroom.
You know what? It just came to me the Stellantis thing, the Stellantis maintenance crew, the SMS people. There's a reason why they didn't want them cleaning things up, and that was because they're the ones that in the jumpsuits that probably say Stellantis on the back, They're the most
Right.
feared people in the building, according to Scrubs. You know, the
maintenance people?
Maintenance people. Look out. Scary.
Well, you don't want your people that are in charge of facility maintenance spending all their time cleaning up someone else's evacuations.
Right.
It really hits morale. It really detracts away from other things that could be getting done than
A new
dealing
low,
with
if you will.
biohazards. Yeah. It's a
Mhm.
really low, really terrible thing to have to go
Yes.
deal with. As someone who's had to deal with it several times and eventually had to be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It's in the policy that the manager has to clean that up because it's a biohazard and I'm not trained to clean that up. So good luck with
Yeah,
that.
so we here in our little town, we had enough problems with that they lock the facilities now.
I tried
in the town you live in, they do that as well. Facilities are only
Yeah.
open during the day.
Yeah.
At night, locked up.
Well,
because
I found out something. If you've been to a parking lot recently, you've noticed that some of them have blue lights.
yeah, what is that?
It's so that you can't find your veins in the dark by the light of the parking lot. It's for druggies.
Oh
it's
my
to keep it from.
goodness.
I'm
So they're
serious.
shooting
That's
up in the
exactly what
parking
it
lot.
is. Right.
No,
So
it
they can't
makes
shoot up in the
sense.
parking lot because you can when you look in your arm, it's the light is blue. Well, your veins are also blue, so they won't show up. They're almost impossible to see.
Well, of course, the only ones you're going to get are the hardcore people that just they do it by muscle memory. They're not even looking, just there. So,
But
at
it
least
keeps
you know who.
other people from. It keeps the average people from doing it in the parking lot, and accidentally ODing in your parking
No,
lot.
I get. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Because
Wow.
the hardcores are going to do it anywhere.
Wow.
No,
Okay.
I found that out recently. It was an
Now for
interesting little
something
tidbit.
completely different.
Time for the penguin on top of your television set to explode.
Yes. I was just thinking because we were talking about tech and simple fixes, right? I was just reminded of the service call I went on when I was getting the consulting business off the ground.
When you were a young warthog.
Yes, a younger.
When I was a young warthog. Anyway.
I went to this high-rise, luxury high-rise apartment.
Well, we're moving on now to the side.
It was not the Jeffersons, but it was about 15 floors
moving on
up.
up.
It was one of the
To the east side?
larger high-rise luxury condo buildings in the little town there, and the suburbs.
Yes.
And it's August-ish, or July, hot day. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so nice to go into these apartments, because they're the luxury apartments in the sky, and air conditioning and whatnot. But in true miserly fashion, they don't air condition the hallways.
No, just the units.
Just the units.
What do you think this is? Some kind of hotel or something?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. So, but it's still cooler than being outside.
Is it? Is it
Yes,
really?
Oh no, it was. It was stuffy,
You're stuffy.
Some days. I'm riding the elevator up. I get out on the
Move
top
along
floor.
here.
I get on the top floor. I'm walking down the stuffy, somewhat warm hallway, but you can tell. You ever been in these areas where you can tell that the building you're in is getting baked by the sun and it's really, really hot? You kind of have that
Because, like,
smell of
the
almost
paint is
smoldering
peeling.
timbers. Yeah, almost, right? So I'm in there. I'm like, okay, it'll be so nice to get into this person's apartment, right? So I ring the bell at their door to hi, computer guy, whatever. And the door opens.
Check that door for heat, Tim.
Yes. Bam! This door opens and I'm hit with this blast of just hot
A furnace
air.
blast. It's like opening your oven.
Right. And it's just this nice little old lady standing there in a tracksuit with her walker.
Hello.
Like,
It's
yeah, but-
finally warm enough in here for me. My blood is so thin.
Right. That's exactly. You got it. She's wearing like a velour tracksuit.
Right.
And
not a drop of sweat on her face.
No,
Not a
nothing.
drop.
Just totally
hasn't-
comfortable.
She hasn't sweat in probably 15 years.
I gone like 3 steps. I look like I'm just stepping out of the pool. I'm just so
Right, yeah. I had a similar thing happen. I walked in from working at my hardware job, and I walked in from working outside. Not even really working, just kind of moving around outside. And they go, "Oh, is it raining?" I was like, "No, it's just hot."
It's like that. And here we are on the top floor, and of course, because it's a deluxe
Heat
apartment
rises.
in the sky, right? Oh yeah, heat rises,
Yes.
and the windows. I mean, they get these beautiful, windows for the view,
But they
and all
don't
the
open.
Scenic. Oh, they open. They're just not open.
Well, right, because she's finally warm enough.
Right. And so it's like, well, show me where the computer is. She's supposed to be over to the computer, and she's got like a desk fan blowing on the computer. So she already recognizes the problem.
It's hot.
Right? It's hot. I look at the computer, and the computer's like, help me. It's like
Help
slowly
me.
melting on the desk,
Exterminate.
I just shut it down. I'm like, and it's too hot in here. It's like, well, I put a fan on it. That's I understand, but the computer can't sweat, so the air, you're just blowing more ambient air.
You're just
towards
blowing
it.
hot air across a hot surface. It's really not doing
Right.
anything.
It can only cool down so many degrees below the ambient temperature before the temperature. And so there's no way that the little cooling fans in there can really.
Right. It sounds like a
Do
jet
anything.
plane starting to take off. It's just all the cooling fans are going at max RPM.
Right. This is,
That
well,
was
what
back
can
when
I.
cooling fans weren't a joke either. They
No.
they were loud.
I was, well, what can I do? And I said, well, maybe figure just write letters until fall.
Yeah. Or get your landlord to turn the air conditioning back on.
No, it's a condo. So she's got the thermostat right there. It's off.
Right. Okay,
There.
so she's just happy with it being warm in there.
Yeah, right. She's comfortable. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So you should have told her to go down to the supermarket, get some sponges, put them in a Ziploc.
That's no better.
Put them in
No,
water.
that's no better. That's no better.
Wait. Put them in water, and then put them in your freezer, and freeze them, and then put them in a Ziploc bag, and then get about 10 of those, and just
No.
stack them in front of the fan.
No, because when you
behind
give
the fan.
advice, when you're a professional person, you give advice. The person getting the advice you're lucky if they do half of it. So
Yeah, I know.
We'll get to the point where there's ice cubes and a computer and electricity, and I don't want to be responsible.
Right, exactly. It'll get that far.
outcome.
It'll be like, oh, I could just
Right.
skip a step and go right for ice cubes. Like, no, you need the sponges so that when they thaw out, it sucks the water back up.
Or we could talk about cooling trays, or we could just say, I asked her what do you use the computer for? She said, well, I do send emails.
I bother my children with too many emails a day.
Oh, so I just told her, so maybe write letters until fall. Just leave it off.
Ew.
I went over to the thermostat and I said, because those, this is pre-digital thermostats, right? So you got the round
Right.
Honeywell, and it's got
Right,
the
it's just a round dial, and it's got like all the little
Right.
switches on the outside for all the different
right,
functions.
and it's got
then you just
and it's
turn the
got
dial.
it's got the red analog pointer to tell
Needle.
you what the
Yeah, the
temperature
needle.
is inside the apartment. And
Right.
I shouldn't have done that
It's just
because
pegged.
it's over 100 plus. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have looked. I said, okay, when this needle starts coming down and reading below here, go ahead and use the computer. I said, oh, okay. So
I don't
how
think
much
there's
do
a
I?
computer.
I'm not charging for this one, ma'am. I'm just, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I didn't really
can't
do
charge you money.
anything other
So-
than maybe tell you to turn your air conditioning on if you want to use your computer.
But I don't blame her. I mean, she's probably 90 pounds dripping wet with the tracksuit
Right, she's a
on.
canary. She's
Yeah.
built like a canary. She's
Yeah,
80
so-
pounds dripping wet, and that's including the velour tracksuit and the
Right.
walker. She's
Right.
on like 7 different blood thinners.
Right.
So her blood's like water. It's
can't. You just
she can't hold of the heat. She's just
Right, that's
radiating
right. No, she
all
can't.
away. It's just
Right.
she's got no muscle mass.
So
Built like a stick insect.
I'm just like, okay, well, what? Sometimes the simple fixes are the best. Don't use it. There's nothing
Yep.
wrong with it other than thermal soak. So let's
Almost
just.
like the dentist, or was it dentist or doctor that called us because they had gotten a computer from somewhere else, and it was again early in the business, and
Yeah.
they called us, and they were like, hey, we need you to come look at the computer, and we get there, and it's in a cabinet. And
Yes.
it does. It sounds like a 747 is landing in their office.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
and we're like, You open the cabinet door and give it a couple. I mean, it's literally we opened the cabinet door and just gave it a couple minutes, and all of a sudden the thing quieted down.
Right.
Like,
right.
Oh, how'd you do that? It's like we gave it airflow. We opened it from the box it was in.
And on that disappointment, it's time to say adios and farewell.
Adios and farewell.
Remember, if you want to contact us, you can always leave a comment on Spotify. You can leave comments in the comment section, or you can send us an email at drakeandmaestro@outlook.com, or on X at Drake and Maestro. Just look for Drake and Maestro on X.
Maestro, something like that.
Yeah, something like
You'll
that.
find it eventually. Look for the Twitter that has no followers. You'll be right at home.
That's the one. And so, until next week, tune in again when the maestro says,
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
So adios.
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 Adios, muchachos, caballeros, when you get out of here.
Yeah, that poor old lady, man.
The poor old lady, nothing. That poor computer. The lady was fine.
But she was. I give her credit that she already understood the problem by having the fan blowing on the computer.
Right, but the fan's not doing anything. The poor fan is just not. It's like the fan knows what's going on. The computer knows what's going on, and they both acknowledge that this isn't helping. But at least she tried.
But what was funny was she acknowledged the situation, was happy to not use the computer until things cooled down, and I went on my way, and it was. I was slowly acclimating to the apartment.
The heat.
Yes. And so I walked into the hall, and it was like, that hallway that I thought was hot and stale. It was like,
and I was like, hey, this isn't so bad.
Yeah. Then I get on the elevator and go down, walk outside. It's like, how wonderful.
Oh yeah.
That same.
It's like